the 7-day jumpstart to permanent transformation. What we're really trying to do here is introduce you to the tools, skills, and habits that you can develop to overcome the underlying genetic obstacles that can self-sabotage us. So the wisdom of how your genetics and biology can sabotage you by hijacking your brain. And when we say hijacking, I'll show you a couple examples in a second here, but tools to get out of the biologic traps and take control of yourself as the authority. That's what we want. Now, the rocket train is about to take off as we go through this, because we want to go through and give you just a brief overview of everything that's going to be in this series and how powerful and important they are to our daily life, because they can hijack our biology. Really, what we want is habits that lead to permanent transformation. How do we actually transform and keep the transformation without sliding back, without self-sabotaging ourselves, and get the results that we're looking for? So first, look at this. This is crazy, right? The brain is so silly. This is how the brain hijacks you. Although you may believe that this is moving, this is actually not moving. It's a stable picture. It's just an optical illusion, something that is taking control, an example of how your biology can be unreliable. Now, here's another one. This one bothers me to no ends. Actually, it looks better right now than it has in forever, but all of these lines are completely straight. They are all completely straight. And as much as your biology wants to tell you that they're crooked, they're not. They're totally straight. And so I think it's appropriate to address this and how silly the mind can be right at the start, because this is what we really want to get. This is what we want to overcome. And this is the black hole of self-sabotage. This is what keeps us trapped. We have the pleasure trap that we're going to go into. We have the fear and stress loop that feeds back into the pleasure trap. You have toxic shame, which are emotions of shame and guilt from the past, and I'm not where I'm supposed to be, and societal, everything. It's a dysfunctional society. And in the center of that black hole is the inner critic. The inner critic is vicious. The inner critic is the voice that keeps us from doing everything that we ever wanted to do, because it says you're not going to do it anyway. You never did it in the past. How do we deal with this thing, right? That is what really is going to make a difference. And as we go through this, I think it's appropriate to start with a little paragraph out of the autobiography of a yogi, Yogananda. He brought Eastern wisdom over to the West. And although we are going to be very scientific with how we describe the mechanisms that are going on in the body, it is amazing how much correlation there is with Eastern wisdom. Now, in the East, they've actually achieved happiness, and they do it through mindfulness and meditation. But how do you get out of it? And so this paragraph where it talks about samsara, and it says that samsara is the literal, induces a man to take the line of least resistance, and that we must move past this ability to take of least resistance in order to get where we really want to go. In the Bible, it says, whoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of God. And to become a friend of God, a man must overcome the devils or evils of his own karma or actions that urge him to spineless acquiescence in the Mayic delusions of the world. A knowledge of the iron law of karma encourages the earnest seeker to find the way of final escape from its bonds. Because the karmic slavery of human beings is rooted in the desires of Maya darkened minds, it is with mind control that the yogi concerns himself. The various cloaks of karmic ignorance are laid away, and the man views himself in his native essence. This is so beautiful. Maya, to the Eastern cultures and religions, is illusion. It's all imaginary. And this black hole of self-sabotage, but it seems so real. It seems so real because it's real, and it's chemical, and it's emotional, and it's in our body, and we're going to get into it. But the truth of it is that this is really, well, that's a little too fast. it's struggling with our biology, as you can see here. It's struggling with our biology, struggling with your biology. And it's all illusion. All thoughts, all perceptions, everything that we perceive, illusions. And so we want to be able to take control of those illusions, not love for the world. Love for the world is what's people stuck in this pleasure trap. That's an illusion because the pleasure trap is not real and it doesn't lead to happiness. It leads to suffering and is an example of our biology taking over, hijacking our system. This fear loop where we have perceived biologic danger, that's I'm offended because somebody didn't call me back. And now I have a story, control safety strategy. Now maybe I'm sad, so I go eat. And then this leads to more pain and suffering when really that was all imaginary. The person just was busy and they had a traumatic event in their life. We don't know. But it leads into a black hole that is not where happiness is found. So we have to talk about what we are. From a scientific perspective, we are an energy field. You are the animating energetic field of awareness. That's what you are. We know this. Science can see our energy field. You can read it. And when someone dies, the only thing that changes, nothing in their physical body changes, but their energy field is no longer there. So we know that we are an energy field. And at the most fundamental level, you are mindful matter because we are energy at the very center of everything. So you are the animating energetic field of awareness. That is being hosted by a temple of biology. This is you right here. This temple of biology, the most beautiful thing ever, the most valuable thing ever that you will ever own. It is so valuable and we need to understand it in order to master it. How do we master this temple and get it to do what we want it to do? Well, really, this temple of biology is a biological robot colony. This is terrifying. It's so scary. I know, we made this slide. I made this slide. It's so scary. But anyway, it's a colony. It's a colony of individual cells that have come together for a greater purpose. And you are the greater purpose that controls them. Now, every single cell of this robot colony has been programmed by Mother Nature to do this. This right here, the motivational triad of all of life. It's so beautiful because it allowed cells to be so successful that they became multicellular. And then that's us. Now the motivational triad of life is seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy. That's what every single living thing on earth does. And so we're going to go into how this changes and what it does in our society now is it becomes the pleasure trap, where we are ruled by this evolutionary dopamine monster inside our brain, right there in the center. And it turns this wheel and it hijacks our brain and it creates a situation where we do things that our brain is telling us are good for our survival, when in all actuality, we are doing things that can create suffering and further suffering. So we have to go through the pleasure trap. We have to talk about that. And the pleasure trap works with the body via a chemical messenger system known as emotions. Emotions are the experience, and emotions create an action tendency. So it's chemical information programmed by Mother Nature to get us behave in certain ways. So when we're scared, we have a response in the deep center of the brain. This is the middle of the brain, the oldest part of your brain. And it sends chemical information to the rest of the body that activates the body in a variety of ways. We're going to get more into that as we talk about the fear loop and how it hijacks our emotions. But like fight or flight, this sympathetic nervous system is the one that we really want to go into because these are stress hormones. And stress hormones are the ones that tend to make us act a little crazy, the ones that make us have bad decisions, whatever. So the truth is when we talk about those bad decisions, that they're just sensations in the body, right? It's a tendency, an action tendency. And if we're not careful, the mechanisms can drive us to bad habits to compensate for the unpleasant sensations in the body caused by the chemical messengers. Now, we are the awareness, and so we can control which chemical messengers are being sent, and we're going to give tips and tools on how to do that as we move further. Those emotions are directly tied into this fear loop. It's also the stress loop. Its perceived biologic danger leads to a control and safety strategy. Now, the brain is so sneaky that it can perceive danger everywhere. The brain is actually your don't get killed device. That's all it is designed to do. The brain is not designed to make you happy. It is designed to keep you alive. So we can have perceived biologic danger everywhere, socially, as well as the brain is so easily tricked that fast food restaurants and soda companies have known for a long time now that if you put a healthy item on the menu, people will actually buy more of the worst, the most unhealthy things. And it's almost like a biologic threat where, I am threatened that I'm not going to be satisfied, so I'm going to get this. That's how sneaky and silly our brain can work, and yet we know that this leads to pain and suffering when we choose the least healthy things, even when there's a healthy option, and it leads to emotions that go back to perceived biologic danger. This is a vicious cycle, and understanding this will change your life. To illustrate how that dopamine monster works just a little bit more, this is Joe. We're going to talk about Joe more, but Joe has two angels, one on each shoulder, right? And one over here is the dopamine monster. This reinforces dysfunctional patterns. Over here, Joe's mindfulness angel. Joe's mindfulness angel reinforces functional patterns. Functional patterns are good because they help us to do successful things that make us happy. It's about happiness and our satisfaction. When the dopamine monster takes over, we choose dysfunctional routines. And those dysfunctional routines lead to an increase in dysfunction. So even though our biology is getting the signals that we're being successful, we have an increase in stress. More dysfunction leads to more stress. This is a vicious habit loop. We want to replace it with healthy ones, functional routines. So how do we trick the biology, or how do we hardwire it, or how do we perform certain movements, certain mindfulness exercises, certain breathing techniques to allow us to take control and develop functional routines that lead to function, which is a real relief of stress, which really makes our lives a lot better. Now, it's a habit loop. Science knows that up to 90% of our thoughts day to day are the same as we had yesterday. So we have to get a hold of these habit loops, because if you're doing the same 90% things you did yesterday that you did today, but you're not happy with the results from the last few days, things have got to change. You've got to get into a new functional routine, because that makes our life experience. This is our reality. So our personality and our state of being are all dependent on whether or not we're having the same thoughts, the same movements, the same feelings and nutrition, or whether we're having new, more functional thoughts, new mindset routines, new movement routines, new nutritional routines, new information. It's information in and it's information out. That's the way the body works. So much so that it's crazy. And to master your biology, you have to understand that we're all completely schizophrenic. Everyone on earth. So if you feel crazy, that's okay. We're crazy too. It's okay. But it's a play of these separate selves that are all showing up in different moments. We have a really loving self, we have a really angry self, we have a really judgmental self, and we have a really compassionate, understanding self. It's infinite, but they're layers. And we have to understand that these layers of who we are just characters, and that we get to decide who is in the driver's seat, which character is showing up in this moment, and now the next moment. And so by understanding that we can choose how we want to show up, we can get out of situations where the inner critic is the main character. The inner critic is the main character and makes our life miserable. We're going to talk more about this as we go through the program, but it's so exciting to be able to know that you have what it takes in you to get your authentic self as the main character. Your true being. You get to be the voice. You get to be the one who's in charge. the one who's thinking the thoughts, not the prisoner of the mind, the one who's creating that beautiful life that is meant for you. At the end of the day, as we'll talk more science, the awareness of each cell responds so literally to the information it receives from the environment. It is like a high priest interpreting messages coming directly from God. Now, the cell has its own awareness. It has a cell membrane. And the truth of what science knows is that it's not the nucleus and the DNA that determines our genetic fate, and it is the cell membrane is downloading information from its environment at all times. So if you're giving it nature and rainbows and beautiful things, you're going to flourish. If you're connecting those cells to a trash heap, to a nuclear reactor, it's downloading information that is toxic, and then for sure you will produce toxic byproducts in different aspects. There's no other way around it. This is the way the body works. The cell is an environment factory, so it is constantly just downloading information from its environment. If you give it trash, it's going to produce more trash. If you give it beautiful, wonderful things, it's going to be so happy, and it's going to neatly package them up, and you're going to be happy in rainbows and kittens and all kinds of things. This is our thoughts, this is our movement, this is our nutrition. These are the fundamentals of health. You can't ignore any of them. It's holistic. So again, this is how the body works. You are the animating, energetic field of awareness that is being hosted by a temple of biology. You rain information down on your cells with your every thought and action, which is perceived through cellular awareness. This devout cellular awareness immediately communicates pertinent information to the sacred book of genetic code, your DNA, right? That's what it is. The DNA is a blueprint, and the information that you give it determines what is transcribed and translated to the environment. That's how it works. So we want to get out of this black hole of self-sabotage. And if you haven't seen the movie Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise, it's a beautiful movie. And we'll finish with this, is that this struggling with biology is what we want to help you get over. We want to give you the tools, the habits, and we're going to go through 7 days, and it's going to be fantastic and wonderful. And the Vanilla Sky movie, in that movie, Tom Cruise, he paid to be in an induced dream world. And he was in the world, and then it turned into a nightmare. And his nightmare started taking over. And instead, he realized one day, oh my gosh, I'm in a dream that I paid to be in. And so he called out for tech support, because with tech support, he could turn that dream into a reality that was more fitting for him, that was honest, that was pure, that fit who he was and where he is now. This program is tech support for this conundrum of struggling with your biology. Now, you didn't pay to be here, but you bought the ticket, you're alive, you're with us, and so the only game in town is how to maximize your experience while you have it. It's your dream. You can create. You can do whatever you want to do with your body, and it will respond and adapt, and it's beautiful. Oh, it's so beautiful. That is what we're going for. We are trying to escape self-sabotage for a world of health. That's what we're going for. And the ways to get out of these rocket packs, those are the tools and systems of neuroscience and biology and all the things that we're going to talk about to give you the best tools that we can so that you can be really successful and not get looped back into those cycles of self-sabotage. It's a black hole. We know it. We see it. We've seen it over and over again, and it takes people. And this program is designed to help you to overcome that so that you can truly master your biology. You are worth it. You're worth it. It's the only game in town. Master yourself, right? In the yogi start that I talked about, those illusions and overcoming them. When we're in love with the world and with the sensations and things, it leads to suffering. However, by mind control, we can get out of those illusions, the ones that have continually haunted us, and we can create a happiness, a state of homeostasis and peace in our body where our quality of life is so good because our temple, our biology is working with us, and we are working with the biology so that we can do everything that we really want to do in this life and be so radiantly happy. That's our goal for you, is to be so radiantly happy. We're excited. We're excited. It's going to be great. Stay tuned for the next videos, and we'll see you soon. There's tools for growth in every page. So follow along, do the work, and we'll talk to you soon.